If your idea of fun is crowds, sun, sex and interesting diseases that you catch on holiday, then the Hebridean island of Gigha definitely isn't for you. On the other hand, if you like quiet, contemplative beauty, lush countryside and wonderful scenery, then it definitely is. So, first up, where is Gigha? It's just off the coast of the Kintyre Peninsula, before you actually get to the Isle of Islay. It's owned by the Community Trust, who bought it in 2002. The population is slowly rising, and the population now is in the mid-hundreds. It's nearly 6 miles long and runs to 3,500 acres. We went there in early June 2018 on a somewhat drizzly day. Let's run the tape. You join us as we're driving down the single track road which takes to the ferry port called Tay In Loan. There's not much there. There's an area for parking which is mapped out to mark be the same as the ferry, and there's a cafe and a toilet and some notifications. The ferry is here coming to meet us. It's just come from Gigha and it will be going back there with us in a few seconds. We're joining the ferry now. We're guided onto the ferry. It's roll on, roll off. Turns out we should have paid when we got on. We didn't realise that. But they said they'd get us on the way back because there was no other way that we were going to get back off the island. We're parked up now and the main doors of the ferry are closing. They're really tight on this occasion, so they're struggling to make sure that they don't actually collide with the car that's there. Within a few minutes, we're setting off across the small sound that takes us out to the Isle of Gigha. And here we are on our way now, leaving the mainland for the short crossing. It's dull, overcast, but thankfully the sea is quite calm today. Before we know it, we're almost there. There's no time for a cup of tea or anything. And here we are, we're disembarking now onto a single track road. We drive up. And we're on our way. There's not much choice in where to go. There's only a left turn and a right turn onto the main road. So, tossing a coin, we decide that turning left is probably the right idea. So off we go, down the main street, on the left of the island, headed south. Turns out that it was quite a good choice, because it leads almost immediately to Achamore Gardens, which are here. We turn in and it's about as crowded here as it ever gets. Park up, and before we know it, we're actually wandering into the gardens. This is the honesty payment point, £6 per person to get in, and you get a free leaflet for that. The gunner are quite magnificent. The whole garden is in a state of needing some tender loving care, but the rhododendrons and trees are quite magnificent. You can see there are paths that zigzag across the garden and some ponds which in their day must have been quite magnificent. They're somewhat overgrown now, unfortunately. We move on gradually through the gardens and eventually we come to the walled garden. This is 2 acres in size, and unfortunately again needs more resources going into it to restore it to its original magnificence. It was originally planted by Sir James Horlick, who made the malted drinks, which sent you to sleep in the 60s and 50s and 40s and before. The rhododendrons are more or less finished. There's some azaleas in flower still, but we wander on, and there is a path that we're coming to that takes us up to some viewpoints. The first viewpoint gives us a view over the garden itself. Here it is, the 2 acres. It is verdant, green and leafy, which for an island in the Hebrides is quite extraordinary. And then eventually we come to this final viewpoint that gives a view over Islay and Jura in the far distance. We come down through the garden again, and we arrive at Achamore House. This is for sale at the moment, and has been for some considerable time. Difficult to see who would buy it actually. The estate agent particulars do provide us with this rather nice view of the interior, and they actually mean that somebody might contemplate buying it, I guess. We head out from the gardens and go due south. In a matter of moments, it seems, we're at the southernmost tip of the island of Gigha. You can see in the distance some small islands. In front of us, some wag has put a sign telling us how far it is to the South Pole and the penguins, and it turns out it's 16,200 miles. Looking outwards, we can see the Isle of Gigha. On this island, there's a ghost who lives in this house. You must give homage to him by saying, "Good evening, Mr. Brownie," if you arrive. All too soon, we're headed northward again, and we pass the visitor centre and the hotel. We turn again onto the main road, and we're up towards the north. It's only 6 miles away from the south, and it doesn't take long to arrive there. When we arrive, the wind has got up and the rain is there. However, you can still see out to the Isle of Islay and further out. So, this has been our trip to the island of Gigha. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you'll go. Thanks for watching.